What is a leaf? That sounds like a silly question. However, it's actually more complex than one might think, and if one were in a group of biologists or botanists, one might find arguments and a failure to come to an agreement. This is a complex question. So, for example, do mosses have leaves? They certainly have green flappy things which perform photosynthesis. Are those leaves? No. The general definition of leaf, which is agreed upon by biologists and botanists, is that it must contain vascular tissue, specialized tissue which distributes water and perhaps sugar to and from the cells in the photosynthetic structure. And so mosses do not have this. Mosses do not possess vascular tissue at all, and certainly not in these photosynthetic flaps known as innations. So no, mosses do not have leaves. Do all plants which possess vascular tissue include this vascular tissue in their photosynthetic flaps? In other words, do all vascular plants have leaves? The answer is no. Some perform photosynthesis in their green stems and do not have leaves which have vascular tissue in them. The obvious follow-up questions are, where did leaves come from? If leaves had one origin in plant history, that would mean that all leaves have descended from common ancestral leaves and share certain features. Alternately, different groups of leafless plants evolved leaves by incorporating vascular tissue into photosynthetic surfaces. Biologists can agree that among plants which have leaves, there is a difference between microphylls, small leaves whose vascular tissue forms a single tube which does not branch, and then megaphylls. I put that in quote because it now seems that megaphylls have had separate origins where the vascular tissue branches. Leaves which are microphylls with unbranched vascular tissue are a feature of a group of plants alive today known as the Lycopods. They're significant because they are an ancient group of plants going back to the Devonian, and thus microphyll leaves seem to have been the first leaves. They were typically small with unbranched vascular tissue running the length of the leaf, although even though microphyll literally means small leaf, these leaves could be long and thin, simply having a vascular tube running through a long structure. So there are lycopods alive today known as quillworts, where the leaves can resemble grass and be, say, more than a foot long. And there were fossil trees which had long microphyll leaves that could be more than 3 feet long. And so while most microphylls are small, they don't have to be. They simply tend to be thin, given that their vascular tissue is unbranched. There are less than 2,000 species of lycopod alive today, including about 40 species of club moss, which are common in the northeastern United States, where they often grow as ground cover and were often used for decorations in winter, given that they stay evergreen. These club mosses and other lycopods have the same alternation of generation that many primitive plants do, where their haploid phase of their life cycle, the gametophyte, is a separate independent plant, and in lycopods is often subterranean, living by more of a decomposing life cycle before becoming the sporophyte, which is the green photosynthetic phase of the life cycle. While lycopods are not dominant today and do not have any tree forms, in the past this was not the case, and in the Carboniferous there were numerous lycopod trees which could get to be well over 100 feet tall and were major components of the forests whose carbon has produced many of our coal deposits from this period. And so lycopods had a rich fossil history.